Messi lost. Lewandowski missed a penalty. Mbappe did win, but it's all kicking off again with Ronaldo.
Yeah, and it seems like the Glazers are willing to sell Man United. It's all while the World Cup's going on in Qatar. There's a lot of news going on here in England. Welcome to World Cup Sera, Qatar, a podcast produced and presented by sports journalism students live from our radio studios in Preston. I'm Matt Ward.
And I'm Callum Insall.
In this episode, we will be reviewing the first round of games from Group C and Group D and looking ahead to today's action. For those watching live on YouTube, Morocco are currently playing Croatia, but there was only one big shock from Wednesday's action.
Yes, indeed. And in a moment, we'll be talking to our guest, BBC Sports Editor for North West Tonight, Howard Booth. But also joining us in the studio is...
I'm Matt Salmons, second-year sports journalism student, and I support Northampton Town.
I'm Stuart McCracken. I'm also a second-year sports journalism, and I support Arsenal.
I'm Ryan Richardson. I'm a third-year sports journalism student, and I support Blackburn Rovers.
And I'm Elliot Burrow. I'm a third-year sports journalism student, and I am a Wolves fan.
So, yes, we're going to start with one of our big talking points, which is, of course, Ronaldo and the Glazers. And we're going to introduce one of our studio guests, which is BBC with North West Tonight's editor and sports editor, Howard Booth. So, Howard, obviously, it's kicked off at Man United. Ronaldo's leaving. The Glazers are looking like they're going to sell. What is sort of your thoughts on the ongoing saga at United?
Could lead the news agenda even during a World Cup, which is quite impressive. The Ronaldo story, it's kind of what we've expected. The fact that they've done it during the World Cup is ideal for them. It gives everybody something else to concentrate on. It takes a little bit of the attention off them. But also now the announcement that they are prepared to either sell or to bring in new investment, or they're just looking at ways to actually change the fabric of the club. This is absolutely enormous because the Glazers have always said that they wouldn't. But I think the questions now are, why have they decided now? Huge news for Manchester United supporters. Huge news around the world because where are the buyers actually going to come from, but also maybe big news for the likes of Liverpool and FSG because now they're no longer the biggest club on the table in terms of any interested parties who want to get involved in Premier League football. So it really is a huge day for football. Interesting time from United because the World Cup is actually going on as well. So maybe they're trying to buy themselves just that little bit of breathing space where people won't be asking them all the questions. They'll actually be concentrating on the World Cup. But it's Manchester United. Nobody ever goes quiet about Manchester United.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I think Ronaldo's known what he's doing. I think that the World Cup, big tournament, but he's stealing the headlines. Is there anybody else who has any thoughts on that?
I came on last week on the podcast and said that this could be a good thing. The interview could be a good thing for Manchester United because the power that Ronaldo's got with how big and well known he is. So I think this is a good thing for United because is a good thing from Ronaldo because the interview has basically forced the Glazers to sell up, and I came on and said that last week, and it's happened. So, like Howard said, very, very worrying for Liverpool. You've only got to invest a little bit more money to be able to buy Manchester United compared to how much it would cost to buy Liverpool. So, I think this is a good thing for United.
I'm not so certain. I think Ronaldo, he's just acted very disrespectfully for a club that he says in his leaving statement he loves. But he's refused to come onto the pitch when trying to be subbed on. He's walked out of games early. How can you say that a club that you've been there twice, you say you love the fans, but you're not even willing to come on for like the last 10 minutes of a game? I still don't think he was right to do the interview.
I think it's difficult because I think, would the Glazers have actually sold up if Ronaldo hadn't have done that?
I'm not sure because the fans have been protesting for a very, very long time, and it'll be good. It's going to be a very happy day for Man United fans when they do leave. But I think for Ronaldo, he's regarded so highly by United fans. Surely this just tarnishes his whole reputation with the fan base.
I'm not sure that we can say that the Glazers have decided on this because of Ronaldo. I don't think the Glazers will be swayed by anybody or anything. I mean, they've had 17 years of really, really severe protests against them. They were smuggled out of Old Trafford in a police van when they actually sort of bought the club. So the protests have never really concerned them. The criticisms never really concerned them. They don't do any media interviews. This is why a medium like this is so important. We can discuss why the Glazers might be selling up because we're not going to find out from them why they're selling up. I don't think it's down to Ronaldo. I think if we look at why FSG are willing to actually sort of lose Liverpool now, Liverpool need a huge rebuild. They need a rebuild at team level. Manchester United have started to get things ticking over in that regard, but Old Trafford is really, really in need of massive refurbishment. The Glazers, they don't really spend. They spend the club's money. They don't spend their own. When you get into something like rebuilding or redeveloping Old Trafford, then that's your money. In America, a lot of the stadium refurbs are done by the cities, the states. It's not the case here. Look again at, and not going to get too financial into all of this, but the currency exchanges at the minute, the dollar against the pound is so weak at the moment. It could be something along those lines. But why they're doing it is interesting. But really, what the fans will want to know is who is actually going to take over and what will that mean for Manchester United. And I think that's now going to be the point that we'll talk about. In terms of Ronaldo, there's one thing for sure, isn't it? When this sale actually goes through, who's going to claim credit for getting Manchester United out of the Glazers' hands? Cristiano Ronaldo. He's going to come round and say it was all down to him.
Now, another talking point already in the World Cup is sort of the added time that's been added on in both the first half and the second half. For instance, in the England game yesterday, or the day before, there was 14 minutes added on in the first half and 10 minutes added on in the second half, which obviously made it 24 minutes in total. Now, FIFA has told referees to be more accurate with their timing. And joining us now is Barry Kropp, who is a former Football League assistant referee and now a match observer. Hiya, Barry.
Good morning, everyone. You all right?
Are you well, Barry?
Yes, very good, thank you.
Good. So, obviously, we've said, FIFA have said, let's be more accurate with our timings. Is it sort of one way to stop time wasting in this World Cup?
I think one big thing that's about added time has been a big complaint in the Premier League for the last couple of seasons since the introduction of VAR. And clubs have always complained that not enough suitable time has been added. So I think it was going to take a game on the world stage, if you will, to highlight this issue. And as soon as Kalina said that referees would add it on, I think it was only to be expected.
And what do you think refs are looking out for in this World Cup?
It's anything really to slow the game down. So we saw multi-ball introduced last year in the Premier League, and I think certainly in this World Cup we're looking at we've got nations with different tactics and different skill levels. So we saw Saudi Arabia try and slow it down against Argentina, and all those tactics, they need to be taken into account. The fans want to see 90 minutes of football. We don't want to see players feigning injury, the ball being out of play longer than it's in play. And I think those are the sort of things that we're looking at, and they're the things that we're seeing time added on for.
And obviously, this clamping down on time wasting. Do you think it could work in the Premier League and the EFL?
I think we will. I think we'll see it. We seem to adopt as a nation. We adopt anything that FIFA bring into the laws of the game, and it will. It will come as a law change, and added time and time accuracy has to be absolutely correct. As soon as we see it on a world stage, we have to see it worldwide in all competitions. Time wasting's always been a thing. Whether you're 1-0 up, 2-1 up, whatever it is, you're always trying to slow the game down. And we've seen substitutes, made in the 93rd minute trying to kill the game off. All that will now be added on. For years, it's been added on. When I was on the EFL, we used to make notes of every substitution, every caution, every goal scored. And that time would then be down to the fourth official, who would feed that back to the referee, and that's what would go up on the board. But in that time, since my time on the list, we see goal celebrations take even longer now. They can be in excess of a minute and a half, 2 minutes before the game restarts. The fans paying need to be seeing that time played, and I think it's the right thing to do.
VAR has obviously been a talking point so far in the tournament, Barry. What have you made on that?
The problem with VAR is you always. This is my personal opinion, and it's opinion I share when we talk about games in the Premier League. Whatever decision, everything looks worse slowed down. So a tackle is going to look worse. Slowed down on VAR from when the referee sees it in full time. When we talk about offsides, we all argue that the marginal ones should really be allowed the benefit that should be given to the attacking team. But decisions in refereeing, where it comes to fouls and stuff, are still subjective, and you'll still have that argument. We see it 9 times out of 10 on Match of the Day. We can slow it down, look at it 15, 16 times, and we'll still not all agree on the decision. So VAR was never going to be perfect. Whether it's the system or whether it's the people operating it, I'm not sure. I've no experience of running it, of working in it myself. But it was also going to always. Clubs cried out for it, and as soon as they got it, they started complaining about it. So, like everything else in football, you'll never please everybody.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us there, Barry. Wish you all the best of luck. Cheers.
No problem. Thanks very much.
So, obviously, we're going to open it up to our studio now. You know, obviously, Howard spoke about the added time. Just sort of, what are your thoughts? We'll start with you, Howard. What is your thoughts on the referees clamping down on time wasting?
I don't think anybody complain that we need to do something about time wasting. It's very interesting that Barry mentioned the goal celebrations, substitutions, and the likes. There are specific time stoppages for those, but how do you actually clamp down on a goal celebration? I would like to ask Barry, actually, from his perspective, watching a game, if he thinks that the added time numbers that we've seen have been accurate. If he actually thought that, yeah, that's fair enough, or if Barry thought that seems a bit excessive, or maybe even that seems a bit short. But it's going to come down to the same thing, isn't it? Do we get to the point with other sports where we actually have a clock and that clock stops? Because the problem with injury time added, it's arbitrary, and that's my thing. How accurate actually is it? If we had an actual stopping clock, then that would be we'd know, wouldn't we? And I think it would just be a little bit more, probably a bit easier to take than what we're seeing at the moment.
I think the thing for me is that nobody's against this and everybody's happy about it. I think I've got a bit of an advantage as a referee myself, that I referee, Sunday football, and nobody can see my watch, nobody can see the clock, so it's very easy, when you're on a park pitch and the ball goes miles away behind the goal to stop the clock. The most common question I get asked on the pitch is, ref, is the clock stopped? So I think people will only see this as a good thing. I remember there was a game that for my team, this is League 2 football, the pace is a lot slower, but I think our reporter for the local paper, there was a lot of time wasted in the first half, so in the second half he decided, right, I'm actually going to stop the clock every time the ball goes out, and he said that the ball was only in play for like 24 minutes or something ridiculous like that. I mean, would you really want to sit and watch another 24 minutes of a football match and also think of the players as well? That's going to affect their fitness as well, surely.
Yeah. And as you said, Howard, I'm an avid watcher of American sports, and they do the system of stopping the clock every time the ball or whatever they use is out of possession, and it works. I would be in favour of seeing that used in football. It's such because football, the ball's out of play so much. Stop the clock, because even just throw-ins, people take 30 seconds to a minute just to throw the ball into the pitch. We are wasting so much time of playing the game, and I think it's long overdue that time wasting really gets looked at.
Yeah, I think looking at it from a different perspective, with being a rugby league referee, I think we obviously have that stop clock there where we stop it, ball goes out of play, a bit of time waste, and we've got an injury, we stop the clock. But I think that rugby league have done to sort of speed things up a bit is like they've introduced a shot clock. So at scrums, at stoppages, we've got this stop clock here, which is 20, 30 seconds, where players have got to be in or they get penalised. Now, football's the situation where, we have the running clock. We've always had the running clock, and the added time's gone at the end. Is that could possibly be a solution, I think, or at least bringing in sort of cautions and ways to sort of speed up the game. So say, if, for example, you take too long to take a throw in and stuff like that, or you are just time wasting, it's like a yellow card, but we push it a bit more instead of just being you've got to do it 2 or 3 times. We've all seen a goalkeeper, when he goes to take a goal kick, he'll put the ball down, he'll pick it up, he'll take it over to another
kick his
spot.
Posts.
And you're thinking, surely that's a booking. Why do we wait 2 or 3 times to sort of then go, actually, that's a yellow card? If we book him early on, he'll stop doing it because then he knows it's going to be a red card.
Yeah, the warnings need to be gone just straight away, yellow card, and then he won't do it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's it.
The goal celebrations, you make a goal celebration in 30 seconds, and if they're not back ready for play, then the goal scorer gets booked.
But
it's very extreme, but
are you taking the love out of football though with the goal celebrations, because it's in the moment? If you score a big goal, you want to celebrate.
Only for the team that scored. It's absolutely galling for all the away fans, or the team that hasn't scored. But it is getting a bit excessive, isn't it?
But isn't that the part of football though, rubbing it in the away fans' faces? That's why home fans love it and away fans hate it.
It's just the other fans, isn't it? It's not the home or away. But I think it is getting a bit silly. But also, you made the point there in terms of booking players early. I mean, really, how many times do we see a player booked for time wasting? It's very, very
We
infrequent.
don't until the final 10 minutes of play, really, and by then it's too late.
Yeah, you can time waste in the first minute of a game. It doesn't need to just be effective in the last minute.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're just sort of short on time. We're going to move on to obviously last night's result and of course the shock win for Saudi Arabia versus Argentina. Obviously Saudi Arabia won 2-1. Messi of course scored a penalty, but Saudi Arabia came roaring back and managed to nick all 3 points. We're going to start with you, Howard. You know, obviously it's not an ideal start for Argentina. Do they sort of have what it takes to maybe bounce back from this defeat?
They've probably got what it takes to actually still go on and win the tournament, but they've made it difficult for themselves. Say that that makes it sound like Saudi Arabia didn't actually play any part in their victory. But I think if you look at some of the defending, it wasn't desperate defending, it wasn't last gasp defending, it was absolutely superb defending. Some of the tackles around the edge of the box were just brilliantly timed. It was Premier League quality. So Saudi Arabia did superbly well. Argentina, the questions will still be asked about Messi in World Cups, but they've made life difficult for themselves, but really, they know what they have to do now. You know, they have to get results in the next 2 games. And if you're the opposition, if you're Poland or Mexico, you only got a point. You missed out an opportunity yesterday. Those 2 teams now will be left thinking maybe we're the ones that are actually going to miss out. One of us is going to miss out because they've got it all to do with Argentina still to play.
Stuart.
Yeah, you say Argentina know what they have to do. Only Spain in 2010 have went on to win the World Cup after losing their opening game. So it is a mighty task ahead of them. And with Mexico next, that's no easy game at all, because the Mexicans will be up for that, and they love a shock in the World Cup, such as back in 2018 when they beat Germany. I think as well, it's the first time they've lost a match when they've led at half time at a World Cup. So it's just stat on stat that goes against this Argentinian side. And will Messi get that title that he's always wanted? That is the big question. And looking from what they've got left in the group, it's going to be tough for them. And if they do come second in that group, they're most likely going to play France in the last 16. And we know how that went last time with Mbappe scoring.
Yeah, I mean, also look at when they won the Copa America. That was Messi's probably best little sequence of games for Argentina. There's still the criticism of him in the World Cup. If you look at him in isolation yesterday, I'd be interested to know what you guys think about Messi's individual performance yesterday, because we've seen other players so far in the World Cup, the big names, have huge influences. Do we think that Messi had that same influence for Argentina yesterday?
Well, for the opening goal, he actually lost the ball, which led the Saudi Arabia goal. So you could put that into the talk about yesterday. And also, what did he create? When you look back at the game, they just struggled with that high line. Saudi Arabia, they went with a game plan and they kept to it in that first half. They caught them offside multiple times. So you got to ask, what can Messi do to improve this Argentinian side?
I would think that Poland and Mexico will be looking at exactly what Saudi Arabia did yesterday and rubbing their hands, because they're 2 teams that you would think would be actually better exponents of a game plan.
I think as bad as Argentina were, we've also got to give massive credit to Saudi Arabia. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. I was sat here in the studio yesterday with the other guests saying, we just kind of brushed over it, like, yeah, Argentina will win that. You know, they're playing at the moment. It was 1-0 when we stopped recording. Then they equalised, and then by the time I got upstairs, Saudi Arabia were ahead, and there were 2 very good goals as well. It's not like Saudi Arabia scrambled it into the net or whatever. You know, the first goal was a well-taken finish, cross goal, and the second one was I think the keeper probably should have done a little bit better. He got a hand to it, but it was still a decent strike. But I don't know. I'll open it up. Does anyone think Saudi Arabia might be dark horses now, or do you think this was maybe just a one-off and a big moment in the spotlight?
You can't roll them out. Yeah, you can't rule them out now. They're top of their group. You know, they've put themselves in pole position to get out of the group. You know, Mexico, Poland drew, and they looked beatable. If you're Saudi Arabia, you're thinking, we've just beat the top dogs in this group. We can beat Mexico and Poland after how they performed in their game alone. And I just say it's good for their fans as well to beat Argentina with the likes of Lionel Messi in the side. What a celebration that is for their fans. Must be having a great few days.
I mean, every clearance, every tackle in the last 10 minutes was celebrated like a goal, wasn't it? It was pretty amazing to see.
You say that though, but how much effort did they put into that second half? Will they be able to go again on Friday? Because Mexico and Poland didn't look up for the game. They'll be much more up for it on Friday. So you think maybe that might play a part?
I think they're going to be so pumped and kind of motivated from that win against Argentina. They're going to feel like we've just beaten Argentina, one of the favourites. no one can stop us now kind of thing. I think that adrenaline's gonna keep them going.
It's essentially a home World Cup for them in terms of supporters.
Yeah, just over the border, aren't they?
Share
Yeah,
a border with Qatar, and if you look at the fan experience so far, Wales were pretty good. Yeah. England were relatively passive. It's a different kind of England fan than it looked like from the crowd. Saudi Arabia are coming in their tens of thousands, and that actually could play a significant part in the next 2 group games, because it's, as I say, they're coming up the border in their tens of thousands.
It seemed the same for the Mexico game. There's loads of Mexican fans there yesterday. That helped them as well in the group. Yeah. You could see most people would have probably tipped Poland and Argentina to get out of that group. They could be the 2 to miss out.
Yeah.
And just looking ahead now, there's been 2 stars obviously play so far. Lewandowski for Poland, Mbappe for France. Just quickly on those 2, especially Lewandowski missing the penalty yesterday. Do you think it was talked about in a podcast last week? If Poland are to do anything of any note, he needs to be firing. And obviously, in the first game, it's safe to say he wasn't. Elliot, do you think he can get back to form?
I think there's no doubt, there's no questioning that he can get back to form. I think that's like sort of unquestionable in the way. But his performances at the World Cup for Poland in particular, they are. That is the bit of the question, really. It's sort of like the Argentina and Messi case. If Lewandowski doesn't turn up, do they really have a chance? Really, do they really have a chance of winning the game? And I think it showed that yesterday. There, like they had the penalty, he missed it, 0-0. They didn't do much more, did they? Really? And I think that's the problem. And that's coming back to like the Messi point as well. I think when Messi doesn't show up for Argentina, do Argentina really have that chance? Really, I think he will bounce back to form, but he's going to have to, really, because judging by Poland's performance yesterday there, if they're going to want to get through this group, he's going to have to be on top form if they're going to get through.
I think you look at Lewandowski, he's now got to be on form to get Poland out of the group. I think if you look at France, they're thinking about Mbappe's influence in the latter stages of the competition and in the really, really huge games. So really the expectations of those 2 are probably a little bit different. Mbappe's there to potentially win a World Cup for France. Lewandowski now to get him out of the group.
I think it says it all for Lewandowski and Poland that he hasn't scored a goal at a World Cup at the age of 34. That just shows that they don't know how to get him involved in the game. Yesterday he was getting frustrated at Wojciech Szczesny booting the ball 50 yards and he doesn't have any support. He doesn't know what to do. And he's the star man. If you're going to win games and get through, you've got to get him involved, and Poland can't seem to do that.
It seems like teams like Wales and with Gareth Bale, the team understand how he plays. Everyone knows how to. He's obviously scored that massive goal on the other night. Whereas with Poland, it seems like it's just kind of Lewandowski, and then the rest of them, none of them seem to kind of be able to click with it.
He seems rather isolated up front, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. Isolated. Yeah.
Which is strange because they do have quality around him. Zielinski at Napoli has been on top form this season.
So we're going to move on to just a few hours away from the next matches kicking off, and we thought we'd introduce our next expert, Elliot Burrow. Elliot Burrow's got some information on the games coming up. Elliot, we're going to pass over to you. Tell us what games are coming up today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for describing me as an expert as well. Really big me up there, so I'm hoping I can sort of help out a
You're
bit.
Under pressure
Definitely no pressure. So Morocco and Croatia, we know that's going on at the minute as we're live right now. That's 0-0 at half time. But we've got 3 big European giants sort of entering today. We've got Spain, Germany and Belgium all coming in and playing today. And there's one match in particular I looked at, the Spain and the Costa Rica game. Obviously Spain are the 2010 champions, but they went out in the groups at Brazil and the last 16 at Russia as well. And they've had a bit of a torrid time of things really since the winning that World Cup. And they come up against Costa Rica, and I put this down really. I look at the game and I thought, this is potentially a shock. We had a shock yesterday with Saudi Arabia. I think out of the 3 games today, I could see Costa Rica especially producing a good performance against Spain. And Spain, there's a lot of questions about Spain, I think, with this new team and this new team. Obviously, they've left players such as Ansu Fati out of the team and out of the squad. And I think it's a real chance for Costa Rica here, maybe just to sort of nick a result and put a statement down. So that's one for me personally. That looks an absolute cracker. And then moving on as well, we've obviously got Germany versus Japan, which looks really, really good. And Stuart, you said to me before, and you said that Germany were your favourites for the tournament. Just why were they your favourites, and how do you see them getting on against Japan this afternoon?
Well, you just look at their squad and it's littered with talent that play in the Champions League on a regular basis. And Hansi Flick, I would say, out of all the managers at the tournament, is probably one of the strongest managers. Won the Champions League, of course, with Bayern Munich. And then if you look at their forward line, they've got ridiculous options: Sane, Gnabry, Musiala. I think Musiala is one to really watch out for. He's going to light up this tournament, I believe. And then more. And then you got that big debate though up front for Germany. They got the youngster Mikuko, only a teenager, and then you got Nicholas Füllkrug, the veteran who's never played in the national team until this tournament. Scored one in the warm-up game. So will he start? Will Mikuko start? That's the debate in Germany.
Yeah, and just to come back on a point there as well, obviously in 2018 they went out in the group stage. They didn't get past the groups. So have they got a point to prove coming into this World Cup, do you think? Or what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. The Germans don't want to, they always like to perform. But if you look at their group, Japan, that's a big test as well. They've got some good players that they showed in the last World Cup. Norway lost to Belgium in the last 16. So it will be tough, but I do think they'll have the experience to get through that.
I think so as well. I think Germany will have enough for that one. And then finally, we've got Canada and Belgium. This is again looks interesting, really. Belgium looking as though they're going to be out without Romelu Lukaku for this game, and Canada maybe having Alphonso Davies back fit, which is even more important. It's Canada's first appearance at World Cup since 1986. They didn't win any games when they were there, but you never know. I think this is a potentially opportunity for them to sort of at least give Belgium a game as well. I think every game today has got that potential for maybe the underdog, maybe to nick a result and pick up some wins, which would be good. But Ryan, I've got to come on to this point because he sat on the bus. We sat on the bus 2 weeks ago on a trip somewhere, and Ryan said Canada. He said, I reckon Canada will get to the semi-finals. Now, big bold statement. Ryan, what are you thinking about this match today? And second question, why did you say that they would get to the semi-finals, or you reckon they would get there?
I just like the Canadians, Elliot. But seriously, their group, Belgium, Croatia, Morocco. Belgium always come into this with high expectations, always come to every tournament with high expectations, and they never perform. That defence is always a question mark. They've got all these nice shiny midfielders and attackers, but they never seem to step up to the mark. Croatia are an ageing squad, I think we all know that. Luka Modric, Ivan Perisic, they possess quality, but is this the last time? Is it a step too far for them now? At Morocco, I think they're quite on par with Canada, and Canada just have some X factors about them. Alphonso Davies, if he is fit and can get firing, he's a really good option down at left hand side. Jonathan David up front is a really capable striker, and as a Blackburn fan, Junior Hoylett at the World Cup, I'd love to see him bag a goal. I think he was a great player for us back in the day, and I'm rooting for him, I have to say.
Can never rule out Junior Hoylett, can you? Never rule him out. But no, I thought it was an interesting point when you said that. I did, because I thought on the face value, he must be joking here. He can't be being serious about this.
We love an underdog.
But the more you look at it, the more you think, actually, the group, like you said, the chance today against Belgium, no Lukaku, and there's the opportunity there. If they win today, get something out of the game, it sets them up, gives them that bit of, like Saudi Arabia yesterday there. We could see more and more like that.
Just look at Saudi Arabia. They beat Argentina. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
I think Saudi Arabia have actually done the other big teams today a bit of a service, because they've literally just pointed out to every favourite in every game, look what could happen.
These underdogs, the confidence is coming through the roof now.
But all those managers of Germany today, of Spain today, of Belgium today are just going to point at Saudi Arabia, Argentina, and say, don't let that happen. So actually Saudi Arabia have probably done a favour for the bigger teams rather than the smaller teams, who will say, yeah, we can do it, but the same message has kind of gone out of caution to the big teams.
Howard, just going back to one of the games going on today, Spain, Costa Rica. Spain, it could be argued, haven't been firing the last few years as we've seen in the past. How far do you think they could go in the tournament?
I think it's really interesting to compare them with France last night, because a lot of people were putting some doubt on the French because they'd lost so many key players due to injury. So we didn't quite know what we were going to get out of France. And what we got was actually, I thought, quite a solid performance, and a performance that was a bit of a pointer to the remainder of the tournament. I think Germany and Spain are similar as well, and in the same group. It's fascinating, because what we just said is that Germany, they have these options, but they're going into the competition not knowing where their best 11 is. That can work one of two ways. That can work absolutely brilliantly because you click and everything, you're just going for it, or it can become very disjointed and it doesn't quite work. I think it's the same with Spain. I think today's huge for Spain. If they look together, if they look that they're actually a team, then really they've got all the individual talent to go on. On the other hand, if they don't look that and Costa Rica do cause problems, it could be the end for them.
So that is it for today. Thank you to our special guest, BBC Northwest tonight's Howard Booth. He's off now to go do a guest lecture on the sports journalism course, so we're getting our money's worth. Hopefully he can get a free curry from the canteen.
And thanks also to Matt, Stuart, Ryan and Elliot, of course. This podcast was produced and presented by sports journalism students at the University of Central Lancashire in Preston.
If you liked it, you could follow us on Spotify, share it with your friends. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow for a review of Group D and a look ahead to Group E with some other students from UCLan. Well done, guys.